I didn't think anybody would even be here. I was scared to walk up the steps to see an empty room, so thank you. Dankeschön.
So it's your third day here.
Yes, it is.
And let me ask you, how do you like it?
You know, it's been a great show. And a lot of people, and there may be some right here, I can't really see your faces because the light's so weird, but you asked me, you know, is this your first time in Germany? And I said, yes, and how do you like Germany? And I said, I point to the walls and I go, this is all I've seen, this, and back and forth to the hotel, but really, it's you. Because for me, Germany, and even though there are people from Sweden and the Netherlands and Belgium also, but mostly Germany, I see Germany in your faces and in our conversations, and I'm very grateful. It's been lovely. Yes, thank you.
So what would you say more people ask you about when you are at your table, about Married with Children or Fright Night?
Good question. It's actually Married with Children, yeah. And when we were making the show, we heard that it was popular here. So I was looking forward to coming here not only to see my Fright Night friends, but to see what the reaction was to Married with Children and Marcy Darcy.
So let's focus on that for a moment, because I had you in Fright Night talks the last 2 days. So can you tell us how you came to play the part of Marcy Darcy? How was the process of the casting, and how much did you know what was going to happen?
Well, it was fairly traditional in the way in the U.S. I think here too, you have a representation, an agent or a manager, and they read about the parts that are the shows that are happening, and they submit your picture, and then you may get called in to the casting person to read for it, and that was the process. It actually was the first and only sitcom I had ever auditioned for, and so that was new to me, and I didn't have a lot of relative experience to another script to compare to, but I knew it was funny. You know, I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, people don't talk like this on TV, but they do now. And so I got probably 5 auditions maybe. By the end, you get called back, and there's less, and called back, and there's fewer, and the last audition is for a room full of executives, and I got to meet David Garrison, who played Steve, my first husband. He was cast, the part was written for him. So the last few girls who were in line to play Marcy, you know, we had to make a match, and I matched. It has to do with David too, because he's a lovely man, and you know, it's chemistry. So when he and I were working together and doing the lines together, I actually auditioned with Katie too, but I think for Marcy it had to do more with how we look together as a couple. So yeah.
What do you like about Marcy as a character? Like, which characteristics about her that you like?
Well, I have great affection for her. When we first started the show, it was written a little different than the way it ended up at the end. It was kind of crazy and pretty silly. But the first few episodes, like the first half of season of the show, Marcy and Steve were written pretty specifically. My upbringing is Southern in the U.S. My mother was a very gracious lady, Southern lady, and so Marcy I based a little bit on my mother, because everything would be going wrong around her and she'd just be smiling and okay, and just not going to say anything. And then of course Marcy decided to really start talking and she had a lot to say. So she got a little crazy. That's not my mom. But initially she started out a little prim and proper. And Marcy, yeah, she's a little uptight. Okay, but I still liked her. Yeah.
Did you get to keep anything from the whole show? Any prop or anything? Any wardrobe?
Well,
or...
you know, my wardrobe was not my style. It's not what Amanda would wear. But again, my mother loved my clothes. So, and the wardrobe designer on the show was a lovely woman, Marty, and she loved my mom. And so she would give me some of Marcy's clothes. And usually, that's what my mom would say. We would talk on the phone on Friday before the show, before we tape it, and she would wish me, you know, break a leg, have a good show. And then on Sunday, she would watch whatever the episode had aired, not the same, obviously. And she always talked about my clothes. Oh, I love that jacket you were wearing, that little pink jacket. And so she got a lot of the wardrobe. Yeah, not me.
And do you still keep in touch with anyone from the show?
I left LA, well, David, my first husband, quit the show and moved back to New York. And he and I have stayed in touch over the years. And I've seen him in New York, and he's a very successful Broadway actor. So I've gone to see him do some different parts. Do you know the musical Wicked? Yeah. Okay, he played the Wizard of Oz. Joel Grey started that role on Broadway, but David took that role for a while, and he toured with it, and then I saw him do it on Broadway. So I've always been a fan of his. And Christina and I are Facebook friends, and she... did I just have a stroke? No. Did I just faint? Anyway, so she is so adorable. She's such a lovely woman, and she's a proud mom. And Sadie is about 5 years old now, and so I get to keep up with Christina because she posts a lot of mom stuff. Yeah, and then Ted McGinley, my second husband, we were actually neighbors in California when I was still living there. So I saw him a lot then, but because I left LA 15 years ago, what's happening? No, anyway, so pretend like I'm on the radio. How about that, huh? Yeah. Because you can't see me? Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of it.
And can you also, well, actually, you know what? There's so many people here. Maybe I don't have to do the questions. Maybe there are fan questions. Anyone wants to ask a question?
Please don't be shy. Marcy won't hurt you.
Basically, yes. So, hello there. Hi.
Hi.
So, it's first of all, it's awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
Never expected to actually see you in person. So, first off, may I shake your hand?
Oh, and so what's your name?
Max.
Nice to meet you, Max. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, okay. First off...
Are you filming this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, hi. Yeah. Is this going to go on television somewhere? Or
that's
making
not exactly
a documentary about me?
More or less about this whole convention here. But
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
I know. I'm just not good at playing along like with this. Okay. Basically, Married with Children has been a very controversial show when it came out. And I don't know, have you ever had problems when others pointed their fingers at you and said, wow, how are you able to play on this show? Because back then it wasn't really that much of... You basically said it a few minutes before. Nobody has talked like that on television.
Right.
And
no, it's a good question. And it's actually, there's an actual story, some of you may know, but that contributed to some of the success of the show. In about the third season, there was a mom in the Midwest, in the US, and her children were watching the show, and she was horrified at what they were watching, and she got all and wrote the advertisers and the company and get it off the air, and she actually was successful in some advertisers, maybe one, to not advertise on the show, but most people at that time hadn't discovered Fox. We started that network. Married with Children was one of the first shows to start on the primetime network, and the only one to really sort of survive for as long as we did. So this woman brought a lot of attention in the press that people were like, what's she talking about? So they turn on and go, oh, and they started watching. So we actually got a lot of viewers from her, brouhaha. And the thing is, it's like, lady, change the channel. It's really, you spend all this time writing letters, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, just turn it off. You don't want your kids to watch it, find something else to watch. Yeah?
You got a point.
Yeah.
One more if I may.
Is this the Max show now?
Except somebody else?
I'm kidding. Go ahead, honey. No.
Okay, good. Thanks. I don't know, it's been, was it 11 seasons? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 11 seasons, so it's been 12 years that you played your role as Marcy Darcy. So would you say that Marcy Darcy has more became a part of you, or did you more and more become a part of Marcy Darcy? So how's the relation between you as a person and...
That's interesting. I obviously, there are things about Marcy that are a lot like me, like we look alike. And we sound alike, but I mean, of course, so there's a lot of me in the character, but I did not become her, no.
Did she become you?
No, I really have a lot of affection for her, and I can value the circumstance that she was caught in. Now, the show really got sillier and sillier and sillier as the seasons went on, but we always started with a place of truth. I mean, they are human beings. You start out with the reality of the situation, even if it gets really twisted, So, the reaction that Marcy would have to the people, Al, the family, the husbands, was very authentic, but it wasn't necessarily what Amanda would have, Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you, Max. Oh, it's a pleasure.
Hello. I have a question. What's your favorite episode of all these episodes you made for the show?
As many of you probably know, I stopped acting after Married with Children because they gave me my second career as a director. And I just stayed behind the camera. I mean, I've done a little here and there, but in terms of a main part, it ended with Married with Children because the momentum of my career was as a director, it still is. So the very first episode I directed is actually one, it's not that special of an episode, but it was special to me because it was that first time. It's when Al needs glasses, and it's called If I Could See Me Now. And so that I have affection for that. There are so many, really. I love the grocery store, the foodies, because how often do you get to run around a room and just tear it to pieces and pull all the, that was crazy fun to do. And then when Marcy, I think the first time she had an orgasm on television, you remember that first time too. And I think it was around Elvis when she was talking about Elvis Presley, I think. And then we did almost 260 shows. So my God, I really don't remember. You come up and people say, remember when you blah, 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 I just saw you done. I'm like, remind me? Okay. Because I haven't sat and watched it a lot. But when people remind me and I do remember, and it for the most part was just so much fun. Really, truly, yeah.
So let's round it up with this last question. What is your opinion on a reunion with the same cast and to do a rerun or like one more season?
Yeah, well, there is some talk, you probably know as much as I do or more, of rebooting the show with David Faustino, like second generation. Somebody was talking about the remake of the recent Vacation movie that actually Christina was starred in, and how it was Rusty, the kid, now grown up. So that's the same premise I think they're talking about with Bud, that he's now the age of Al Bundy when we started the show. So that could be really interesting, and that could be really wonderful for David. You will not see a reunion. Well, my mother would say never, but I don't think you'll ever see a reunion of the original cast all together at the same time. So, I think we missed our moment in a way for that to happen. The show, we quit making it in 1997. So we're almost 20 years since we were in production. And although we're all still on the planet, it's just a long time and a lot of water under the bridge. So I don't think so, but I hope so for David. That would be terrific, yeah. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you watching.
Thank you.
I've had a great time. Thank you.